All set.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this month's Speak to Council session. As a reminder, all speakers have 2 minutes for their comments. We ask that all speakers participating via Zoom address council with the same respect they would expect to receive and to avoid the use of profanities. And a staff member will notify each speaker when they have 30 seconds left, and speakers will be removed from the Zoom call once their time has expired. All written and voicemail comments that were received for tonight's Speak to Council session have been compiled and have already been distributed to council members for their information and review. I would like to remind all of our participants, as well as others who may be watching online, that my colleagues and I are here to listen to the comments presented before us. And as such, it is standard that we do not respond during the session. Participants' contact information has been shared with the council, and I encourage my colleagues to follow up with any comments or concerns that pique their interest. If you are participating on Zoom and watching a live stream on YouTube while you are waiting to join the meeting, please remember to mute that live stream before entering the Zoom meeting, or you will hear a confusing echo of yourself. We will now begin our Speak to Council session.
Kelly Cheadle. Kelly.
Thank you for pausing the bid legislation. Please consider this public notice. Number 255 is legislation to put forward a bid in Rochester. I've sent over a slide deck, which hopefully you have received. First is the about page of the RDDC. It says that the RDP was created in 2021 to establish a new downtown and riverfront business improvement district. The next page has a flow chart from their site that says the same thing. The next page, this isn't on their website. We foiled for it and it was delayed until right before your meeting last week. You should have it now if you don't already. It is also on nobidrock.com. It is the proposal for the downtown Rochester bid development services. Next slide, which includes a timeline next that indicates that the next time you do anything with the bid that it comes across your desk, that it will be for you to notify the public that the plan has been filed. And it will be for you to notify the public that the plan has been filed and that you have to notify property owners that they have 60 days to file an objection with the clerk's office. From what I've read so far, that is how property owners vote, by not objecting within 60 days of the RDDC filing the paperwork with the clerk. This is what we mean by snowball. If you could please jump ahead to the proposed 5-year budget. The last column, 2026, is the first year in which a bid would fully be in place. I do recognize that this is not necessarily a final draft. That being said, I believe it is fair to consider that these numbers demonstrate intent. Highlights.
30 seconds.
Is $1,425,000 per year, 53% of which was slated for staffing and management expenses. Of the remaining budget, $475,000 for public programming, which you can actually cover $150,000 of with sponsorship listed in the budget. I only point this out because the only justifications for the bid has been programming. And you could cover 8.5 years of programming with the Rock the Riverway funds without raising anyone's taxes. The biggest cut of all is the physical enhancements and public art line that balloons up to $400,000 next year, only to disappear once the RDDC gets what they need. Council, thank you for giving us more time to find out. We would love to share more time with you. Please check your emails to schedule a work session with us, please.
That's time.
Amanda Chestnut.
Hello. Thank you very much, Council, for taking the time to hear from us today. I also want to thank you for your effort to table the proposal that was put forth by the mayor. Looking at that proposal, what I'm seeing is not the initiation of a conversation, but according to the timeline that's been put forth by the RDDC, the actual legislation would start the ball rolling on a business improvement district being implemented in Rochester. We all know from our research, once that process starts, it will be nearly impossible to undo. I'm not necessarily worried about the politics of what happens when a bid is implemented. I do think that city council should be worried because it will take jurisdiction and power away from council who's been voted on by the residents and then place it into the hands of property owners who have no vote. But that's not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is really how the proposed increase in taxes will be passed on to small
30
business
seconds.
owners. I'm worried that the dreams that I have watched my friends pursue for decades will collapse under a business improvement district. And I've seen so many people invest so much time and love and energy into this city. It breaks my heart to think that that will all be taken away and placed in the hands of a very powerful, very small minority.
That's time.
Ted Forsyth,
Good evening, Council. I'd like to address two issues tonight, the PAB and the bid. First, the PAB. There are two provisions in the law, access to information and the appointment process for alliance nominees, and both of these are not being fulfilled. You can review the PAB legislation, section 18-3H for the information and 18-4K for the filling of vacancies. Roadblocks are up, preventing the board from accessing the information as per the law. It needs to do its job. Currently, 2 alliance seats are also unfilled. One is overdue and hasn't been filled in 60 days. These violations of law must be addressed immediately. Please appoint alliance nominees now and grant full access of information needed by the PAB so that it can do its job. As for the Business Improvement District, Amanda Chestnut, who was just on, was quoted on News 8 as saying that bids are 21st century redlining. This may sound extreme to some, but there's research that a bid could very well lead to further segregation based on race and class. We're not talking about a few blocks. RDDC is proposing the entirety of the core of downtown and more. In one study by D'Souza, who conducted 76 interviews with public safety officers, these are ambassadors or private security. These PSOs are, quote, private
30
citizens,
seconds.
along with not having any law enforcement powers, not bound by constitutional limitations. As a result, these groups are not interested in issues of guilt or innocence, but rather they seek to control potential offenders, including groups like homeless, drug addicts, and the mentally ill. This is problematic. You know, when you look at the history of Rochester, and we can look back at redlining in Rochester, who's going to be harassed and involved with the criminal justice system by an intensive surveillance and security in the bid area?
That's time.
And that is Black and brown people, homeless people, people with mental.
Letitia Doucette,
Hello, it's Lutisha Doucette. Thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate every single one of you. And I want to remind you of the commitments that we made so many years ago when we started the Let's Get Real initiative. When we talked about and y'all voted in that the residents, are so important that you change the city's charter. This bid process would undermine that process that y'all committed to so many years ago. And I know that your values are in line with the voice and the will of the people, and that you know and understand that dollars and control over what happens over our downtown should be in the hands of residents, not property owners or some sort of corporation. I, as a Black disabled business owner, chose to stay in Rochester, chose to stay downtown, but my voice would not be included in this bid. And as we all know, I don't know if you all are, I'm tired. I'm so tired of our democratic processes being undermined every single day when we're bothered with this across this country. And this is a time that we can make that true stand to say that it's about the will of the people and the will of council to move forward together in order to make sure that our downtown is great. And we can only do that when we have the control, not some corporation. And I just want to say one last thing. The last time the RDDC told me that they were going to revitalize downtown, all I got was a rent increase. Thank you so much.
Dorothy Hayes, Dorothy?
Oh, okay. Can you hear? Okay. Good evening. My name's Dorothy Hayes. I'm co-director of Rock Level and Abortion. And it's my understanding that our sidewalk presence in front of Planned Parenthood has been the subject of complaints. Deanna, our other co-director, will introduce more of who we are, but I'd like to address some of those complaints, which have resulted in taking down parking meters, changing signs, erecting signs, numerous unnecessary police calls, all at taxpayer expense, and without really any sufficient investigation, but also an attempt to infringe on our free speech. I'd also like to emphasize the importance of our ministry, and it's obviously justified religiously and politically, because we're there on the sidewalk as a public witness to the scientific fact that Planned Parenthood kills children, and public witness is essential in the battle for civil rights. And this really is truly definitely a civil rights issue. But I'd also argue that we're there out of necessity. There's an actual and specific threat to these women and their children. Our presence has saved lives. Women have kept their babies because our group has provided food, shelter, material aid. We've directed them to services that they've needed, and we've given support to women who need compassion, not the violence and isolation of abortion.
30 seconds.
According to Guttmacher, these are the women that are really the ones that seek abortion less, but they're forced into it more. And that any inconvenience that we have towards the neighbors is really minor in comparison to the good we affect in the lives of moms and babies. For the accusations, Planned Parenthood decided to enforce the buffer zone. When they did that, we were forced to go across the street, which necessitated our uses of.
That's time.
I really would like to have,
Carol Cross? Carol?
Is that right? And start video. So I guess you can see me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just a bit of history. Prior to 1991, there was little to no free speech activity at University Avenue Planned Parenthood because they did not do abortions. And when they announced that they were going to do abortions, protests and sit-ins began and escalated. This was really exacerbated by the near total discontinuance of abortions at area hospitals due to the protests and arrests there. Nationally, just to give you a little bit of a sense of what was going on, the number of pro-lifers who participated in nonviolent sit-ins, blocking doors at hospitals that did elective abortions, Planned Parenthoods and other abortion clinics, is reported to be approximately 93,000 people. Of these, attorneys general report approximately 45,000 arrests at abortion clinics between 1988 and 1992. So to put that in perspective, during the civil rights movement, the 3 higher stakes of that movement, there were 3,300 arrests. So that gives you a sense of the huge amount of disruption that would be at a Planned Parenthood. So by the time, you good people moved into the Grove
30
Street,
seconds.
a lovely neighborhood, except for one huge problem, and that was that it had a Planned Parenthood. All of this activity nationally and locally was a known fact. So nonviolent civil disobedience quickly has shifted to persons giving services and love to these women who are going in for abortions. Thank you.
Zanetta Green?
I didn't see her in the waiting room. The next person I saw that was up was and I let him in is Andrew Seeger.
Okay, thanks. I'm just gonna call their names so that they know that, in case they're watching. Peter Debs. Okay, Corey Roberts. Andrew Seeger. Okay, Corey Roberts.
Sorry, I'm on now. Andrew Seeger.
Andrew Seeger.
Uh,
Yes.
Council President, Madam Vice President, and council members, please repeal ordinance 2008. Sorry, I'm on now. Andrew Seeger.
Yes.
Council President, Madam Vice President, and council members, please repeal ordinance 2008. Sorry, I'm on now. Andrew Seeger.
You need to pause the live stream that you're listening to.
Mr. Seeger, did you hear her? You're on mute now. Sir, you're on mute. You're on mute now.
I'm not now, sorry. I apologize. Please
Sir, you're
repeal.
on mute.
I'm not on mute anymore. Am I muted?
Yes, you're unmuted. Did you
I'm not.
pause the live stream that you're listening to?
I apologize. Please
Sir,
repeal.
you're on mute.
I'm not on mute anymore. There seem to be two copies. Am I muted?
Yes, you're.
This is crazy. Am I there?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had too many on. I'm asking you to repeal ordinance 2018-224, which permitted the demolition of Cobbs Hill Village and end a process so full of deceit that it built a lot of anger and distrust both towards city council and the city administration. We were told that the current buildings were beyond repair, so had to be torn down. Untrue. They're solid, which is the reason rents there are so low. They will remain serviceable well beyond whatever Rochester management plans to put in their place. Once unmasked, this argument changed to, we need to modernize. Give me a break. We were told that the new buildings won't kill beautiful trees, many of them old oaks that line and shield the property from the park. How do you build 3-story buildings on the same foot as 1-story, where the trees that arch closely over those buildings nearly touch the roofs without removing the trees? We know that. We can easily see the line. We also know, and this is in city forestry documents, trees close to construction site die within 5 years. We've been told that the city has to be careful if they anger a developer. Other developers may not be willing to work with them. Who runs this city? A friend who lives near Troy visited a while back. She spoke in glowing terms of a developer working with the city that engaged residents from the outset, created plans that addressed their concerns and presented those to wide acclaim. All developers are not equal. The city can seek developers with whom it wishes to work. Surely it's not a captive hostage, or is it?
30 seconds.
Rents are an issue. City council was presented with a poorly written document purporting to keep some rents in the new buildings low, although not as low as currently, as they would no longer include utilities, some as high as $1,200 a month. Nothing in the ordinance commits RMI to any of this. This is some of the history behind the reason we so distrust plans. There are some of the reasons that over 40 community organizations came out against Rochester management proposal. End this flawed, deceitful process and listen to the people who voted for you. Keep Cobbs Hill Village. Thank you.
Roberta Davis.
Thank you. It is with dismay that I come before council to insist that it follow the law. I'm Roberta Davis, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Police Accountability Board Alliance. The Rochester City Charter, which details the powers and responsibilities of Rochester government, includes Section 18-4K. This section clearly states the directions for filling vacancies on the Police Accountability Board. By law, the council is to have 4 members on the board. The PAB is to have 4 members, and the mayor has 1. I want you to feel that balance. The PABA has 4 and council has 4. That is the power structure that has been designed into the system. The Alliance and Council have had 60 days to fill an empty Alliance seat, and it has been more than 60 days since the Alliance submitted 3 names from which the Council could choose the new board member. Instead, the Council has come up with all sorts of excuses for violating this directive, this law. This means that the Alliance, and hence the community, is underrepresented on the Police Accountability Board, and it should be noted that in contrast, recently the Council moved swiftly to fill one of its seats. This deliberate misalignment of power and opportunity to contribute is not acceptable, nor is it lawful. Second, the Police Accountability Board is up and running. Its primary task is to do investigations of police misconduct. Charter Section 18-38 that the Police Accountability Board is to have access to all of RPD databases, as well as any other sources of RPD information that the board deems necessary. The Alliance insists that the PAB be granted its legal right to all RPD databases and any other sources of RPD information. The citizens you represent and who elected you are suffering and want action. Do your jobs and follow the law. Thank you so much.
Ronald Garrow. Lee Singbush.
Looks like Lee is still connecting the audio. You might need to move on.
Why don't we go with Jack Motley while Lee is connecting?
Hello, my name is Jack Motley, and I come before council today as a member of the Rochester chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America, a member organization of the Police Accountability Board Alliance. We demand that the members of the city council do their jobs, obey the mandates set forth in the city charter, and act in good faith. I do not have time tonight to go through an exhaustive list of roadblocks the city council and the Rochester Police Department have used to impede the PAB. I have to settle for 2 examples. The PAB passed bylaws in 2021 that provide that the Alliance may nominate 1, 2, or 3 people for open positions on the board. When an Alliance nominated PAB member resigned, City Council chose to not follow those procedures and insisted that the Alliance submit 3 names. The Alliance acquiesced and submitted the names of 3 nominees to replace the 1 person. City Council has been delaying action on that selection for well over 2 months now, with no indication of when it will be resolved. In the meantime, another Alliance nominated member resigned, leaving 2 vacancies on the board. City Council will not tell us what procedures they care to follow for nominations, so it is impossible for the Alliance to submit a nominee for that position. As another example, the city charter states the RPD shall provide the board its entire investigative case file related to a complaint. The RPD has steadfastly refused to give full access to records and only wants to give redacted information to the PAB, directly violating the city charter. These are just 2 of many examples of roadblocks created by City Council and RPD to prevent the PAB from doing its job. We demand that City Council move quickly to get the PAB up to its full number of members, make the RPD give full access to all records and materials, and remove all other impediments so the PAB can function as dictated by the city charter. Thank you.
Lee?
Hello?
I can hear you.
Should I be on or just waiting?
Yes, yeah. Go ahead, sir.
I can go ahead and speak to City Council now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Lee Singbush, and glad you're all listening today. I really appreciate that. This story goes back 6-7 years. I applied to Cobbs Hill Village back then, and they showed me where the individual apartments were being remodeled. And that was very nice. And then that stopped, and they came out with a proposal that said that they couldn't be remodeled, that they had to be, they couldn't be maintained, and we have to have a new building. At which time we asked them, what is wrong? What can't be maintained? And they said, we'll share that after we get the proposal approved, which never happened. We got other people to come in and examine the situation, and absolutely nobody said that there was anything at all reason to knock down the buildings. They could be maintained. It would probably last longer than these current buildings, that our current buildings would last longer than the other buildings. So we went on from there, and the only people that seemed to be proposing this were the people that were connected to donations from the promoters and the developers. So here we are now, and we have a lot of people, because a lot of the original people that supported the proposal are gone from the situation now. So we're asking people right now,
30 seconds.
I'm sorry.
30 seconds.
Okay, right now our rents are $332 and $508. Those will remain with just small modifications for many, many years to come. Right now we have 60 of our units here. If they build some other place, we'll have 144. If they knock this down and just build the new place, will only have 104, and they'll have big demolition costs. So it just makes sense. Build some other place. Please, everybody get behind this and convince the other city council members that this is what we need. It's gone on way too long. Should have been thrown out years ago. Thank you.
Pastor Wanda Wilson.
Good evening. Again, my name is Pastor Wanda Wilson, and I am a longstanding member with the Police Accountability Board Alliance. I'm here tonight to represent the Alliance. I'm coming before you tonight in regard to 2 violations of the city charter, section 18, H3 and K4. First, starting with section H3, it states that the PAB is to have access to all of the RPD databases, as well as any other sources of RPD information that the board deems necessary. Compliance to this section of the charter on behalf of the PAB is important because, number one, it saves time. It's going to cut down on delays when it comes to conducting investigation and researching complaints. Number two, the law department and or the Rochester Police Department may not do a thorough search of the database. Therefore, the PAB needs to have its own access. Number three, the law department and or the Rochester Police Department does not always respond to complaints or investigations with factual claims. Number four, as one of the 5 pillars of the Police Accountability Board, it has a legal right to review RPD's policies, practices, and procedures, and to be able to look at the patterns in the police department. The PAB is unable to do that if it does not have full access to all of RPD's databases. And the last point is that it is most importantly that it is clear language of the law that this is to be granted to the PAB. The second point regarding the appointment of Alliance nominees to the board, we are asking that City Council move forward with this immediately. We thank the 5 council people that have done their job and that have done the interview and submitted comments to President Melendez, but to the 4 who are blatantly not even going to take the time to interview those community people, I would hope that you would think about that, because you are supposed to represent the community, and the people that you are not considering, therefore you're not representing the community. So again, the Alliance is asking that City Council move forward on.
Kara Tierney.
Hi, greetings, City Council. I am a representative of the Police Accountability Board Alliance, and I just want to echo what some of my fellow volunteers have communicated to you tonight. The law states that our empty seats need to be filled, and we, as part of this process, we put forth 3 nominees to fill the seat that was emptied when Dr. Celia McIntosh resigned, and that we put forth our names on May 11th. So it's been well over the 60 days. as the law states. And so now it is time for you as an organization to fulfill the law. I believe it's in good faith, so I just want to make sure that I know that the city council wants this to happen. I want this to happen. The community voted it in, so please follow the law, and so that we can put forth our nominations for the second empty seat. I want to just reiterate that these 4 alliance seats represent direct community input on the board and direct community representation, and that is central to the powers that Roberta Davis was talking to earlier. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to putting forth 3 more names for the other empty seat. Thank you.
Diane Stengel. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Okay, how's that?
Good, thank you.
All right. My name is Diane Stengel, and I speak for myself. The PAB has a Herculean task just establishing and initiating new processes and hiring and training staff. They also have to fight political battles to accomplish their task. There are elements in the RPD, the Locust Club, District Attorney's Office, and especially City Council that want nothing more than for the PAB to fail. How stupid do you think Rochesterians are? We voted for a strong, effective, independent PAB, and you keep hobbling the PAB with delays. The old Civilian Review Board was ended more than a year ago, which signaled that the PAB was established and fully functional for 60 days, according to Section 18-3A. A year ago is the time when RPD should have provided the PAB with all the information the city charter specifies in Section 18-3H. RPD personnel files, databases, investigative files, criminal and civil case files, disciplinary hearing records, video and audio recordings from body cams, RPD policies, procedures, practices, the general manual, etc. How can you expect PAB to set up processes to effectively investigate complaints without all this information? Why has City Council tolerated RPD's year-long stalling? Also, City Council tried to grab hiring authority away from the PAB, causing a several-month delay to successfully fight off the attack. The City Council could have voted on one new replacement PAB member a month ago, but didn't, which prevented a second new member from being nominated and approved.
30 seconds.
Both new members won't get the essential training along with the rest of the PAB members because of these delays. Then, salt in the wound, City Council criticizes just the PAB for not making more progress towards taking complaints and freezes half the PAB budget. Hypocrites! I am tired of the council's repeated attempts to sabotage the PAB and urge you to quickly approve the 2 new PAB members, restore full funding to the PAB, and penalize the RPD for their delays. Do the job we elected you to do. Thank you.
Chris Stevens.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Stevens, president of Upper Monroe Neighborhood Association. We urge you to repeal Ordinance 2018-224 regarding Cobbs Hill Village and end a process so full of deceit that has built anger and distrust towards City Council and the city administration. The plans for the complete tear down and new buildings were conceived in secrecy. Conversations between the city and Rochester management went on for 2 years before the plan became public in 2016. They became public only when the residents were told they could apply for new apartments should they wish to do so when construction was complete. Rents were then estimated to be a substantial increase from the existing apartment rents. The Southeast needs all 60 of these existing extremely low income apartments, not the proposed new building rates. Further, the land on which Cobbs Hill Village stands reverts to the city. In 2009, City Council approved an extension to the reversion date by 28 years because when Rochester management claimed they needed to raise funds to cover improvement costs for Cobbs Hill Village and another of their properties. Not $1 of that loan was spent on Cobbs Hill Village. A false reason given for the project was that the apartments can't be made handicapped accessible. Well, a current resident recently had knee problems and was confined to a wheelchair. Rochester management was quite willing to adapt his apartment for his wheelchair. Further, the deed under which Rochester management operates Cobbs Hill Village requires that it be for Rochester residents only. Yet Rochester management has recruited residents from out of state. When we pointed this out, the lawyer representing the city responded that a resident may come from anywhere, as once living in Cobbs Hill Village, they are a city resident. The community deserves better than this. This is but some of the history behind the reason that we so distrust these plans, find it completely inappropriate, and find it a grave mistake to let it go forward. These are some of the reasons that over 40 community organizations came out against the proposal. End this flawed, deceitful process and listen to the people who voted for you. Keep Cobbs Hill Village as it is. We need these existing
That's time.
sound six.
Gwendolyn Kelly. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Thank you. Good evening, folks. My name is Gwendolyn Kelly. I'm a resident of the Southwest District of the City of Rochester and of the Plymouth Exchange Neighborhood Association area. As a member of PLEX, I stand with my neighbors in the Cobbs Hill Village in their opposition to Rochester Management's plan. This plan replaces the current badly needed lower income housing with unneeded middle and upper income housing. Lower income housing is greatly needed in the Southeast District. Why destroy perfectly good housing that meets the needs of the present residents? The multi-story design proposed is detrimental to the current residents. Seniors are living comfortably in the present apartments, and there is a waiting list for the current superior apartments. The present dwellings can be easily converted for seniors who use walkers and wheelchairs. There is no guarantee that the new rent structure will include utilities. Utilities are included in the present rent structure. The lower rents may not be maintained in the proposed development because of the installation of elevators, increased maintenance costs, and other expense that goes with multi-story buildings. Why Cobbs Hill? Why the expenditure of funds for a new development that is neither needed nor wanted by the present residents of the village or the Cobbs Hill neighborhood? And last but certainly not least, why spoil the life and ambiance of the lovely park and forest area? The beauty of the scenery of the majestic trees and the water reservoir are an irreplaceable treasure to the Cobbs Hill residents. And it is dear to the hearts of all the people of the city of Rochester. We fervently ask that the city council reconsider this plan in light of the opposition to the destruction of the village and its way of life. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Rosalind Walker.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Rosalind Walker, and I am here tonight to address the troubling freedom of information law process at the city, known as foiling, that many in the community are finding unnecessarily difficult to navigate. The purpose of the FOIL process is to provide transparency between our government and its constituents. The current FOIL process at the city of Rochester obstructs this process, especially when attempting to retrieve body-worn camera footage. City residents pay for the body-worn cameras. However, the footage is often withheld from the public in many ways. First of all, if the FOILs are fulfilled, they're often fulfilled very late. And even if you appeal it, they're also come with a lot of gratuitous redactions, rendering them pretty useless in most cases. And then if you appeal them, the appeals are often ignored. I literally have one sitting on my desk now from the end of last year that has been ignored by corporate counsel. Then we also used to have a FOIL reading room where the public could search the results of FOILs that other people have done pretty freely. Even though it received a lot of accolades, there was one big flaw in that if a person was looking for a body worn camera footage that someone else already foiled, the incident report would be there, the redaction report would be there, but they would not put the link there. So you actually had to contact the initiator of the FOIL and try to get the link to the footage. Then sometime last year, the FOIL reading rooms required their personal contact information to search. So that's a little intimidating. Then now the FOIL reading room seems to be gone and there's a new search page, but no matter what keywords you put in, literally no results come forth. So these obstructionist tactics and stonewalling are acceptable, and the public is paying for something, but it's not being given access to it. So I'm asking you, City Council, to fix this in a true spirit of transparency between the government and the public. Thank you.
Mercedes Barber. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Right there it is.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Great. Okay.
Actually, we can't hear you now, but you're.
You cannot?
Now I can.
Okay. Okay, thank you, City Council, for hearing me. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
little
and
low,
I'm
but we can hear
addressing
you.
say it again?
It's a little low, your voice, but we can
A
hear
little
you.
low. I do have my volume up.
Okay.
Let's see. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, and I'm calling about the Sleep Act, which Governor Hochul signed into law in April. I'm in a busy area of the city, the beautiful Sibley building, overlooking East Avenue and Parcel 5. Beautiful view here. We're also a couple of blocks or so away from the Bar District. So we get a great deal of noise in the way of the enhanced motor. And this being such a new law, I wonder, does the council have anything to do with or know if police in Rochester Police Department has been enabled with decibel readers in the traffic division? And it is quite a hazard. It's a health hazard, as we know. If you follow the science, sleep deprivation and interruption does cause problems with things like obesity and other diseases. It's pretty well documented. So that we're looking to have a better quality of life. If we can, if the police can please take into consideration that it has to do with noise pollution. And are they able to do anything about it at this time? That was my question.
You have 30 seconds left. Also, the council doesn't reply during these sessions.
Right. Okay, so that question just goes into file for them to read later? How does that work?
It's on the
Okay,
record.
It's on record. Okay, so that would be it. Thank you. Can I bring up any other issues at this point?
That is your time.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Aisha Cruz. She's not in waiting room, Joe? Okay. Dorian Hall. Dorian? Dorian, can you hear me?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, sorry. Can I start?
Yes, please.
All right, I'm Dorian Hall with the Plex Neighborhood Association and Many Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, coalition of neighborhood associations. I'm speaking about the Cobbs Hill, hoping that city council folks would think about repealing it. My basically thought would be to think about using MOUs, memorandum of understanding, with developers, which would give neighborhoods and also developers a chance to understand the project. I know that Cobbs Hill project has been in the works for some time, but we support the neighborhoods involved in hoping to change the outcome as the project hasn't happened. And one of the big issues with housing in the city of Rochester is development not meeting the 30% AMI, which seems to be a really big problem with development in the city of Rochester. Most projects are at 80% or 50%. So the Cobbs Hill project, if it's really meant for low income folks, I'm hoping that Rochester management would be able to come up with a project that would meet the 30% AMI. Again, I'm representing Plex Neighborhood Association, and I'm also representing Many Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, and just offering a solution would be to start using MOUs with developers, and that's it.
Joseph McCullough. Joseph? You're on mute, sir.
There.
Can you unmute?
I did.
Joseph? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. My name is Caroline Remore. I've lived at Cobbs Hill Village for 20 years. It'll be in January. I was a country girl, brought up on a farm. I love living here. It's like living in the country, but being in the city. If it is torn down, the big trees will be gone. I love having my own entrance. I love sitting out all the time with people coming by. I just love the setting the way it is. Thank you.
Is Joseph still with us? Okay, how about Diana Joy?
Hi, can you hear me?
What is your name, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Deanna. Can you hear me?
What's your last name? I don't have a Deanna on the list.
Joy. They have it
Joy?
spelled.
Okay, maybe they spelled it wrong. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
All right, just a second. My name is Deanna Joy, and I'm co-director with Rock Love Will End Abortion. Who we are, Rock Love Will End Abortion is Sidewalk ministry devoted to reaching out to everyone entering Planned Parenthood with love, information, and support. We recognize the right to life of all human rights or human beings, regardless of their race, color, creed, age, or dependency. We stand against the violence of abortion and the abuse of women. We are advocates, not protesters. We are there to support, affirm, and empower women and to save their babies, to give witness and to be a peaceful prayer presence, to offer true choice and to stand in the gap for women and men who believe Planned Parenthood and killing their child is their only option, to inform people that there are better options for healthcare, to provide information on the availability of free goods and services within the community, to make sure people understand whom they're giving their business to, that Planned Parenthood is in the abortion business. They oppose any and all restrictions on abortion, regardless of trimester, and they support laws and encourage behaviors proven to be detrimental to women, to remind the community what science affirms, children die there, to take action against this grave abuse of human rights, to educate anyone who will listen that the lives of the unborn matter for the same reason the lives of their mothers matter, for the same reason we are outraged by bigotry and human trafficking, because we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are endowed by their creator and
30 seconds.
unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What we do, we pray and try to demonstrate the love of Christ. We train and organize people to be sidewalk advocates. We want anyone going into Planned Parenthood, client or worker, to feel comfortable coming to us for information, support, or to talk. We offer a listening ear, compassion, help to any woman in need. Our Mom Mentors group and effectiveness of our Sidewalk ministry has helped moms in multiple ways with baby showers, rent and housing, car payments, laundry, driven to a
time,
childcare, groceries, Christmas.
Aisha?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us on. I am calling. I know that there was a bunch of, different things about the sidewalk advocates, stand up for life in front of Planned Parenthood. And just to address some of those things, I wanted to make it one thing clear is that, these people that, as we stand out there, it is about not only just saving lives, but, in my case, my people are dying. There's people who look the most like me, places like Planned Parenthood, they kill more Blacks in 4 days than the KKK did in 86 years. We are in a depopulation state at this point. And I know for myself, I'm post-abortive, and as well, my youngest child is a rescue baby. And if it wasn't for people out there on the streets doing the things that they do, my child wouldn't be here. She's 17 now, going to graduate next year. So that's awesome. But, I needed that extra boost to have them, help move you through those fears. And there is a great service that they're doing to our community. It's a great service they're doing to the Black community. When we think about the reason, Margaret Sanger, all of the reasons that abortion came about were basically because they couldn't send us Blacks back to Africa. And now they are convincing us to kill ourselves in the womb. I think that it would be detrimental for people to not be out there, but as well, they're respectful, and we do our best when we are out there to be as respectful as possible. It is about prayer, love, compassion.
Zanetta Green. Ma'am, you're on mute. Do you see the little microphone button?
I think I did it. Hello, City Council. I made it. Thank you, guys. I had so much technical stuff, but I made it. My name is Zanetta Green, and I am here at the Zion Hill Senior Living located at 260 Dr. Samuel McCree Way. And I just wanted to speak about some things that are very good, but some things that are very concerning to me as an individual, as well as some of the seniors that live here. And the first thing I wanted to start with was the security. I don't really feel secure because when there's a fire, for example, the fire people don't really have the access to put the fire out or to know what apartment it's coming from. that's, I know it's a new building and things may be not, I don't know, worked out, a lot of kinks. There are a lot of amenities that were advertised that we were going to be able to have access to, and we have not, such as the rooftop terrace, the neighboring greenhouse, and another part. Also, I have concern with, we have a computer lab that was supposed to be an asset that we could utilize. However, the computer lab is inside of the community room, which it has no audio, so that doesn't really help. And I'm really not understanding what's going on. I also had experience where while I was residing at Peck Street, some of the fixtures in my apartment were taken out. And I just wanted on record when I moved that I did not remove these items. I don't really know what to do. So I'm bringing it to the city council in hopes that I can get some clarity and some understanding and maybe some insight how I can help resolve this issue as well. Thank you again. My name is Annetta Green, and it's my privilege to speak with you all.
There are a few other people in the waiting room, but I don't recognize any of the names on this list. Joe, did we ask them to identify themselves?
Yes, we did.
President Melendez, do you want to just let them in and see if they're on the list?
I think one by one, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Who do you want to call first? Maybe
From
the top?
Yes, that's fine. Sir, can you identify yourself? I don't see your name on the list. Mr. Keenan? Can you hear me? Mr. Keenan?
Move forward.
Okay. Okay, I see Mr. McCauley is back. We lost him.
And I believe, the remaining individuals are on the B list. So if we need to, we can call them back after the meeting or next month. So I don't know if there's any remaining speakers from the A list that we need to revert back to, but otherwise, I believe we will have to close the speak to council session. So if there are no remaining speakers at this time, anyone that was on the B list, if you didn't get a chance to speak, we'll come back to the link following the council meeting. But otherwise, the speak to council session for the month of July will be closed. We'll move to the new link for the general council meeting. Thanks, everyone.